Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of No Boundaries, our World Cup special edition, and the BLACKCAPS have just played overnight. They have lost to India, their first loss in the campaign by 4 wickets, but there was some highlights for the BLACKCAPS. I'm joined by Scott Styris, Mike Hesson, and one of those said highlights, Daryl Mitchell, 130 runs for you this evening. Congratulations. Bittersweet, of course, but you must be pleased on a personal level about your performance tonight.
Hi guys, first thanks for having me. Look, obviously disappointing to not get the result, and I thought we did a lot of good things out there to give ourselves the best chance of winning this game, but credit to the way India played and the way they knocked that off at the end.
Yeah, Daryl, obviously Rachin came out to join you in the middle. Actually, no, he was out there already. You came to join him, and you're in a bit of trouble, and it looked tough. What were your initial assessments there?
Yeah, look, I think we always knew during the day it was going to be probably lower and slower, and it was about trying to build a platform to allow us, I guess, at that 35, 40 over mark to try and put some real pressure on them. And I thought we were in a great position. We're in a similar position to what India were in their innings at that mark. And I guess the class of the Indian death bowling was probably the difference on the day. But really proud of our efforts, especially with the ball as well, to take it really deep.
No Hardik Pandya today for India, Daryl, so that meant they went in with 5 frontline bowlers. Was there any chat about looking to attack one of them to put Rohit Sharma under pressure with his captaincy around how to get those last 10 overs out?
Yeah, obviously those conversations always happen, and for us, I thought at times we put them under a lot of pressure. And for us, it's about building a platform at a 30 over mark and allowing us to use the depth of our batting lineup to really catch. I thought we were in, and although we would have probably liked another 20 runs or so, we still gave ourselves a chance.
In terms of the build-up to this match, Daryl, it really was, it's the top of the table clash. It's the one that a lot of people were talking about because you are the 2 form teams in this competition so far. Unfortunately, someone's record had to take a hit, and it was ours. But in terms of the build-up and preparation, knowing you're facing the home team, was there much talk around that, about how the crowd could contribute to the match? They seemed very loud from what I could hear.
Look, for us, us as BLACKCAPS, it's not making it bigger than what it is. Obviously, very proud to represent our country at this World Cup and to experience not only a ground like this with the mountains and all that, but that crowd and that experience is something that you remember for the rest of your life. So, we're just getting stuck in as 11 Kiwis taking on the rest of the world and really proud to represent our country.
Now, Daryl, obviously at half-time you had what you had, which was 273. Had the ball been swinging at night at practice, were you hopeful that the ball would swing around a little bit in those first 10 overs?
Yeah, it's obviously something you always hope over here in the subcontinent, especially in India, that it will swing. And obviously disappointing that it probably didn't swing as much as that we wanted to. But I thought the way the group adapted through that middle period and the way Mitch Satner and Rachin bowled really put them under some pressure. And maybe if we're 1 more or 2 more wickets away into the bowlers, and away we go.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about that with the 2 left-arm spinners. That is it's a relative term comment, but a weakness of Virat Kohli. Was that one of the plans going in, if Virat Kohli got there, that the left-arm spinners were going to be an important part of it?
Look, you always know in the subcontinent that spin's going to play a major role, and I guess the way Rachin's played both with bat and ball is he's become an integral part of this team in this tournament, and I'm really proud to see him do what he's doing, and just how much fun he's having while he's doing it as well. So, and we know Mitch Satner's world class. He bowls a lot of our tough overs at times back home in New Zealand, and it's awesome to see him get on some turning tracks and have some fun.
Yeah, Rachin, that's his 3rd score over 50. But you yourself, you've reached a level of consistency with your game that I'm sure a lot of batters out there are going, how is he doing that? So I'll ask, how are you doing it? What is happening? What's working for you to create this level of consistency with your game?
Look, for me, I guess I'm at a stage in my life and in my career that I'm pretty content with how I want to go about my business on the field and off it. I just love playing for New Zealand, and it means so much. And it's for me, it's just enjoying this experience of wearing the silver fern. I know it sounds pretty boring, but that's as simple as I can try and keep it, and just try and stay as present as I can with the bat, and keep living ball by ball. And when you get those thoughts that you want to do something else, just keep trying to do a job for the team, whatever's needed, and hopefully that gives you chances to win games of cricket.
Yeah, Daryl, obviously you were a huge highlight overnight, but Rachin, as Laura alluded to, was impressive again. Obviously a young man. When he comes out to the middle, what sort of, is he a big contributor out there? Does he live in his little space, or you guys do a lot of talking? Or how do you operate?
Yeah, he's obviously a young kid, but he's got an old head on him, which is awesome. he's great fun to sort of chat to out in the middle, and we're constantly, I guess, working ways that we want to try and put pressure back on the bowling attack. And a number of us have spent many hours in his room playing PlayStation over the last few weeks as well. So he's an awesome man, and he's going to have a massive role to play for New Zealand for a number of years to come.
The teams that have had success so far, Daryl, have been the ones where the top three have done, or top four have done all the damage. Is that, how much of that is talked about in the group, that you have to be there at the 30 over mark, 35 over mark, because you did say that platform to 30 is one of the keys for the team? Yeah,
I think the platform's obviously massive, and I guess you can see the way that we've structured our team and how we want to go. It's, nothing's really changed from us as BLACKCAPS over a number of years now, leading back to even when Hess was there. I think he could probably talk about the blueprint and how we want to do things. So, for us, it's doing the hard stuff for the team for long periods of time and allowing us to have some fun towards the end.
So your next opponent is Australia, and they're not having such a great time over there, but not as bad as England. But that still doesn't mean that you can't be wary of what Australia can do, because you know, like all fans of sport, Australia will bounce back in some capacity. So how wary are you of your next opponents?
Oh, look, it's going to be an awesome challenge taking on Aussie. It's nice to be here in Dharamshala and cooler temperatures for probably both countries. So, anytime you take on Australia is good. And for us, we're really excited about the challenge, but also at the same time, it's just another 2 points, and we won't make it bigger than what it is.
So you've got to wait now till Saturday to take on Australia. Obviously, you've got another 5 or 6 days in Dharamshala. Just talk us through how your week's planned. Do you have a couple of days off to maybe get up the mountain and visit Dalai Lama, or what do you do over the next 5 or 6 days?
For us, it'd be quite nice to have a couple of days off after this. It takes a lot out of you, I guess, building up to games like this, but we've got, in each city, there's groups that are in charge of, I guess, organising an event of some sort to keep everyone going. So, I think this is Nisha's spot, this one. So we'll see what he comes up with over the next few days.
Could be anything.
I'm sure it'll be good fun.
Good
could be anything.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, still luck with that one. Look, it's some pressing stuff, because there's a lot of things happening in the sporting world at the moment, and it just so happens that the rugby, and I know you're a big fan of your rugby, Daryl, so the Rugby World Cup final, you're going to have to come flying off that field into the changing room or something to watch that World Cup final. How are you going to make that work? Are you going to get them to put it on the big screen out while you're playing? What are you going to do?
Yep, most of the games are all at sort of 12:30 at night over here, so we've been sitting in the team room watching the quarterfinal and the semi-final, and we'll definitely be cheering the boys on for that final. It's going to be pretty special. Hopefully they can bring the trophy home.
Well, they're not the only team we're hoping can bring home a trophy. No pressure, Daryl. Daryl, congratulations. Brilliant 130 from you this evening. Hard luck on the result, but you're doing us all very proud over there. Have a good night.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.
Right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll take a further look at the game, and then we'll take a look at their next opponents, Australia. We'll see you soon. Welcome back into No Boundaries, the Cricket World Cup special edition. The BLACKCAPS have lost overnight, their first loss of this tournament so far, by 4 wickets against the hosts, India. Some of the highlights I'm going to talk about now with Scott Styris and Mike Hesson joining us from Dunedin. Styris, I've never called you Styris before.
That's what.
Scotty Styris is your name.
Yes.
Scotty, if we were to look at the game as a whole, there was that perfect record. Someone was going to keep it, someone was going to lose it tonight, and New Zealand were unfortunately the ones who lost it. But the hosts, India, were they just too good, or did New Zealand just do things that perhaps let them down to mean that they didn't get the 2 points?
No, there'll be aspects to this game where New Zealand, I think, will be incredibly disappointed. At 178 for 2, and then to only get to 278, or 273 it was, I think that is a batting performance that they'll say that's probably not good enough. One player getting into double figures after Daryl Mitchell is probably not good enough, because all the hard work had been done. So there'll be areas where this New Zealand side will feel, well, we need to improve if we want to be lifting the trophy in a few weeks. But they should also be really pleased with a lot of the aspects to their game too, and particularly Rachin Ravindra and Daryl Mitchell getting that big 150-run partnership, really setting it up and getting a platform going is great. But yes, this Indian side has a lot of class and quality about it, and you have to bring your A game to beat them, and there were just those aspects where New Zealand weren't quite there.
So, Mike, if we do look at that, like Scotty talked about there, 6-1 Styris, I'll only call you Styris from here on. Latham 5, Glenn 23, 6-1, Duck 1, Duck. And is that through lack of, I don't know, we haven't seen a lot of that mid to lower order in this tournament so far because our top 4 have been doing the job. Is that down to that? Is it nerves or is it just a bad day at the office?
It's a really good question. I mean, I was watching it unfold and sort of unsure where it was coming from, whether New Zealand were comfortable trying to get 270. I mean, there's two sides to it, isn't there? I mean, Bumrah and Shami are 2 exceptionally good death bowlers, but they were always going to bowl, 8 of the last 10 overs. So, New Zealand were always aware of that. There were also 2 overs of Kuldeep's, and those 2 overs of Kuldeep's probably turned the game. Latham probably misjudged length and went back to one, got LB before he got set, and then Phillips, they'd sort of decided that the 45th over probably had to go because the 3 or 4 overs prior to that, they hadn't been able to get any momentum. And he's basically was always going wide of him. He's tried to fetch it onside. It was a bit of a sucker blow, really, in terms of that dismissal. And then from that time to come out and start against Bumrah and Shami is always tough. But you would have expected on a minimum that New Zealand would have got 20 more than they did. When you've got a set batter in like Daryl, the other guys had to do a job. So 295 was probably a fair enough reflection of the way New Zealand batted. They just weren't able to finish it off. And then from there, they needed something pretty special with the ball.
Those Indian bowlers did do a good job. Mohammad Shami, of course, taking man of the match, 5 for 54. Incredible. But that first over of Jasprit Bumrah's, he had it on a string. I was thinking to myself, you got probably Tim Southey sitting there watching and going, I'd like to have a crack at that.
Yeah.
Bolte would have been looking at it thinking this is going to be all good, but it just didn't, the swing wasn't there for as long. Is that because of the dew, obviously, or did we just not get it right with the ball?
Oh, it could be many factors. It could be the dew, could be just the ball that you get out of the box. Not all of them are the same. It could be something in Trent's bowling, when he bowls his action, whereas Bumrah with him, he just gets the wrist right a little more. And I mean, the seam release for Bumrah's first over was incredible, really. The way he was able to get the ball to swing away from Devon Conway and then that one to come back. It's high class. It's the reason we talk about him in the top 1, 2, 3 in the world at the moment. So it was a real tough challenge for our guys, but you're right. We couldn't quite find the same thing when it came our turn to bowl.
So, Hess, you said in our group chat, Hess and I text a lot, if Rachin can deal with this up front, then he's the real deal. And he did that with his 75 tonight. So we're thinking he is the real deal. We're going to see him a lot for New Zealand in all formats over the next few years, do you think?
Oh, look, all the signs are very much leading that way. I mean, he's very impressive. I mean, it was a tough challenge. You talked about Bumrah. Mohammad Siraj bowled nicely, then Shami came on, and Rachin really struggled to get underway. He was struggling to time the ball, and when he did, he didn't gap it. And often, a young player or a player under that type of pressure would throw it away, but he didn't, and he was incredibly calm. The fact that him and Daryl seemed to combine really nicely together. Rachin's probably more scoring off the front foot. Daryl's probably more looking for it off the back foot initially. Until the spinners come on. So they just really complement each other nicely. And, I think he is a fine player. There are some shots that he plays that you just think, that is high class. He looked well set. And the platform that Daryl and him created certainly enabled New Zealand to push towards 300, which they were never looking at 2 for 25 off 8 overs or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think if you want to judge a player and how much quality they have, when they come up against great players in the opposition, the fast bowlers, the spinners, how in control do they look? And, watching him early, the whole backstory of where the family's from and how his name came about and all of that. I'm sure when he walked out to the middle, Virat Kohli was there in his face with a few words to Rachin as well, just reminding him about things. And yet he just looked in total control right from the start against Siraj, who we know is a quality fast bowler. His foot movements were great, and the way he was able, sure, he wasn't, putting the ball in the gaps and scoring, but in terms of his batting technique and his composure, he looked first class. So I think Rachin Ravindra is making some huge strides, which is great for us. I
kind of get the feeling he's the type of player or type of young kid from everything I've seen, all the interviews, and he kind of froths for the idea of Virat getting in his ear. Like, that's very exciting. Not many players would, you know what I mean. It's exciting to him that he's out on the field with Virat Kohli and Virat's chipping away. That can only be a good thing, because I imagine if they're not worried about you, they don't say much.
No, well, true. Yes, that's a great point. But then I was also around when Ish Sodhi came around, and it was the same thing. But it was all a big wow. Here I am on the stage with Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma and Bumrah, and this is awesome. And he's sitting there almost like a fan. So, I mean, I don't know Rachin Ravindra personally, so I don't know his personality of how he's going to, does it steal him up? I love hearing that if that's the case. But, he certainly has a lot of quality about him, and it's exciting for us.
That is very exciting. Here's if we take a look at Devon Conway at the top, Will Young. Will Young's found himself in an interesting spot in this World Cup, hasn't he? And you have to feel for him, because he's done all the right things. He's always been there. He's always been there or thereabouts. Whenever New Zealand's needed him, he's ready. And he hasn't never not taken an opportunity. But now with Kane's thumb, this is another opportunity for him to show his class at the batting crease.
Well, once Rachin did what he did against England, Will Young probably thought that's the end of my World Cup. So, he's got some opportunities. He played nicely in the last game as well. The thing with Will Young is he's very good at getting started. So I guess in terms of that, he complements Devon well, and it's quite a calmness at the crease. But he does need to make some more match-winning contributions, and that's something that Will's done for a long time. He's got a lot of 50s and probably hasn't kicked on as much as we know his skill would require in that top-order role. So he's going to have a few more opportunities, probably at least another couple before Kane comes back. I'd just love to see if he gets himself to 50 off 60 or 70, that he's able to continue on. Because I thought the way he played the spinners of Bangladesh, the way he tackled Bumrah tonight, who was, as I said, had it on a string. Siraj was good. He got through that initial spell and then got I guess, a softish ball from Shami, first ball of his spell, and chopped on. So he'll be disappointed that he wasn't able to, carry on after getting another start.
I'm sure he was, and I feel gutted that the Black Caps have got to this point and didn't get the 2 points tonight, but that's okay, because there's another game just around the corner. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to take a look at that next opponent, which of course is Australia. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to No Boundaries Cricket World Cup Special Edition. The Black Caps have lost by 4 wickets overnight to the hosts India, but all is not lost. It's only their first loss in the campaign. We've been talking about their batting, but let's talk about their bowling. Scott Styris, Mike Hesson alongside me. Mitchell Santner just has to be the pick of the bowlers. Scotty, I'll start with you. What an extraordinary time he is having of late.
Well, he's been a world-class bowler for 5-6 years now. I don't think it should surprise anybody. But the fact he's doing it at a World Cup, sure, the conditions are in his favour, but he just controls the certain types or times of the game for Tom Latham and Kane Williamson, and whoever's leading that side. So he is just such a banker these days, because you'll often see him coming in the power play. If he needs to come in the middle overs and tie it down for a bit, he can do that job. He'll even get thrown the ball and say, right, we need a wicket, so he'll slow things up and try and buy a wicket a little more, very Daniel Vittori-like before him. So there's a lot of strings to the bow for Mitch Santner, and the consistency is now showing, is making him, just as good as anyone in the world. I think he deserves all the plaudits.
He absolutely does, and Hess, I know you'll have plenty for him. In terms of the other bowlers, though, is there anyone that stuck out for you tonight?
I actually thought Matt Henry was good. His first 6 overs, I think it was, went for 42. I think 38 in boundaries, but he went past the outside edge of Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill 9 times. So he beat the bat on a wicket so it either went past the outside edge or they found the gap and went for 4. And he made the Indians do something special. Like Rohit Sharma, he beat him 2 or 3 times. So Rohit's gone, I can't put up with this. I'm going to come down the wicket. And that moment is a little bit of a make or break time. If he doesn't quite get it right, he skies it in the air, then that build-up of pressure is important. So, I thought Matt Henry was again impressive, even though his figures potentially don't show that. Rachin Ravindra again, I think Scott Styris alluded to it in the interview with Daryl. The left armers against Virat in particular, can close the game down a little bit. And I thought Rachin's starting to control his length a lot better than what he did at the start of the tournament. So, that's really promising. Trent, you can see he's putting in all the effort. He's going over and around. He's just not probably getting the swing he would like. He probably needs a couple of wickets just to get that confidence up, and then the whole of that bowling attack will be be flying.
Just a quick mention on Virat Kohli, his 95. He's now 1 century away from, and he thought he was going to get it for all money tonight from equaling Sachin Tendulkar's most ODI hundreds. This is not the time we want to see him hit any red hot form, but I feel like we might be.
Well, yeah, great player, playing at home. Sachin was there in 2011, of course, when they lifted the World Cup. It's still talked about a lot over in India at the moment when they won the World Cup in 2011, MS Dhoni hitting a six to win it at the Wankhede. Now we've got this Indian side and Virat. He's a student of the game. He knows what's going on in the background. He knows he's 1 century short of Sachin and what that means to go past him. So it didn't surprise me at all towards the back end when he slowed right down, made sure things were there so he could try and get there and equal him. But, he's a great player. He really is a fine one-day player, and he has to be the main target for this New Zealand side if and when they do face them later in the tournament.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So our next opponents, of course, are Australia, who have had an up and down time of it. David Warner is another player who has hit some form. He scored 140 odd, I think, against their last opponents. How big a challenge do you think that Australia realistically are for New Zealand at the moment, knowing that they are hurting because they haven't performed the way they would like, but there's still sort of imbalance in that side, isn't there, Hess?
Yeah, look, I think they are dangerous. I mean, they got 370 at Bangalore against Pakistan. Warner obviously got dropped on 10 and then got, as you said, got 160 and now he's flying. So it doesn't take much to turn that around and those guys have a bit of confidence again. I still think from a bowling point of view, we saw again, the New Zealand spinners sort of close the game down. Australia have got Zampa, and that's probably the aspect of the game they'll be most pleased with, is that he started to get wickets again. But outside of that, they've got Glenn Maxwell, who's a tidy off spinner, but they don't have a lot else. Their seam bowlers, they've hung on Hazelwood and Cummins the whole time. But we saw tonight that once you get in against seam, it's actually relatively easy to score. So New Zealand's opportunity, I think, will be spin in terms of attacking them more with spin. And that's where, if it's a used wicket, potentially Ish Sodhi might come into the thinking. So I'm always wary of Australia. They can sometimes fool themselves and tell themselves that they're confident, especially after a win like that. But certainly New Zealand have been the most consistent side of the two, that's for sure.
What do you think New Zealand's chances are against Australia?
I think New Zealand should go in as favourites and they should feel confident that they can win this game. But a little bit like Hess, there's a lot of quality in this Australian side. They haven't put it together. We know that. But the fact that top order is scoring runs, and they will feel, I think, Australia, that they got one against the head by beating Pakistan in that last game. It's one of those key marquee matchups. Having lost those matches at the start, they needed to win that. So the fact that they did it well, and they did it pretty comfortably in the end, means that I think that confidence will grow. But New Zealand have been fantastic. Every aspect of their game has been on point. So I don't have any doubts, especially playing in Dharamshala already, that they should be fearful. Is probably the word I'd use. They shouldn't be fearful of this Australian team.
I love to hear that. Mike, Hesson, Scott, Styris, thank you both so much, and thank you for joining us this morning. We'll be back after the next match, which of course is Australia. All of the games from this Cricket World Cup are live and exclusive for you on Sky Sport. We'll see you next time.